I think we're ready to roll.
Okay,
Well, welcome back. My name is Justin Kubek,
I'm Rico Camacho.
and before we get going, of course, click like or subscribe or leave a comment on whatever podcasting app you happen to be using. And then, of course, our shout out for the 988 Lifeline, whether you're facing mental health struggles, emotional distress, alcohol or drug use concerns, or just need someone to talk to. Their caring counselors are here for you. You are not alone. Call, text, or chat anytime. All right, let's try that again. We had an event we were going to talk about.
Yes. Okay, we're back at it. So, Half Day Awareness join the mindfulness community of Milwaukee at the Retzer Nature Center for a 4-hour experience designed to reconnect with nature and yourself. This event is free to sign up September 13th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can learn more and sign up at lakecountryfamily.com, and we will put it in the description and everything. So I hope to see you out there. I'm probably going to go. Um, Now, with that segue in, one thing I wanted to talk about today was everyday mental health. So I think there's a division between the concept of mental health that you need medicate, well, not need, that medication is helpful, that you might want to see a therapist or a doctor for. But I think one thing that we lose in the cracks is everyday mental health. So, I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit here and there over the course of the time we've run these episodes, but being back in the classroom the past week or two here and dealing even with my kids, you know, we go the no well, one of the most um normalized form of mental health that we all see, we all feel, we all have is anxiety. And there's different levels of anxiety, and there's different things that bring anxiety. For example, something as little as a test, or something as big as someone's about to shoot me in the face, or any other body part would also be like, if
We go
anybody were to shoot me in any body part, I guess I'd be
we go
thrilled.
to extremes here.
Yeah, but you know, but I want to talk more about the test anxiety and
Yeah.
the making friends anxiety for a child at a school, or adults feel this like when you go to find a new job, like, am I going to get along with my coworkers, how's my boss going to be? And mental health is just like your physical health. And I know I almost I'm positive I mentioned this in the first episode that we did, is if you have a broken leg, you're gonna go see the doctor. Now I don't want to talk about the broken leg. I want to talk more about which then you should go see a therapist or a doctor. And if you have a mental health issue that you need to go see a therapist for, there's no shame in it. That analogy I've given before. But I want to talk about more about like the paper cut, or that I fall and I scraped myself. Like, it still hurts, but you don't necessarily need to go to the doctor or emergency room for it.
Right, the sort of thing that, it might ruin your afternoon, but there's no sense in letting it ruin your day.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. Like, exactly. And I think that that's very important to discuss because
that's what the issue is.
oh, I thought
You're okay.
okay.
I'll be able to boost you.
Oh, okay, cool, perfect, awesome. So, I see this every day in high school kids, middle school kids, because my daughter's there. And I feel like middle school is the worst right now at that age group, has really struggled with anxiety and helping. And again, this is a generalization in my opinion. There's no data behind this. I'll do my homework next time. But I've had enough homework, grading papers and such. But I feel as though, this everyday mental health is something that it's good for these check-ins with yourself daily. Like how am I feeling right now? Like even right now, this podcast that you and I do, it does cause a level of stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, we're hoping that our message gets out there, um, from even a perspective that not just our message, but we want this to go well. Even from a business perspective and how we do it, where we do it, we have these conversations, how often we do it. That causes a level of stress and anxiety. It's like, okay, how can we function with something like this, or something that goes into our day-to-day lives? How can we go about dealing with that on a daily basis? And I think that everybody handles it differently and everybody has a different perspective on it. And that's what's even the most important thing to me, is how some people minimize it. I think
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of people are like, "Oh, suck it up, Buttercup, and
Or
move
they
on."
compartmentalize and they just kind of put it away and don't let it bother them until it overflows and explodes.
Right. And that, well, and that's what leads to the emergency room type thing.
Right, right.
And so how do we, you know, accept the fact that our mental health is an everyday thing and moving it from okay, people go to the gym every day for their physical health.
Mm-hmm.
What are daily things to do, like going to the gym or walking your dog or, the normalized activities that we do? How does it help our day-to-day activities? And this is where I even think you necessarily need a professional because, like, for example, I've gone to nutritionists before and they were helpful, don't get me wrong. So if you want to go see a nutritionist, by all
I've
means.
seen a nutritionist before, yeah.
However, a lot of the stuff you can literally just look online now.
You got to be a little careful doing that. I mean, you're a teacher, you know how to do that kind of research,
That's fair.
but not everybody does.
That's fair. That's a fair point. But I mean, I looked a lot of that stuff up and even the basics, like eat fruits and vegetables.
Oh,
You know what I
like
mean? Like the
food
base,
pyramid sort of stuff.
right, like even basic stuff.
Actually, I don't know what it's like anymore, but I know like the FDA website used to be really informative with like the
Yes,
newer version of the food
I
pyramid and
love
all of
that.
those things.
100%. No, and I agree. And that's what I'm talking about. So from a mental health perspective, what is it on a day-to-day basis that would be like eating your fruits and vegetables for anxiety?
Well, and like before, you talked about, some people go to the gym every day.
Yeah,
It can be that,
that's
having
fair.
that sort of
Yeah.
physical outlet could be the way that I would talk about this is it's ways to stay grounded throughout the day, right? And it's not so much a reactionary thing like the 5-3-2-1 game, where you're
Oh, yeah,
trying
yeah,
to pull
yeah.
yourself out of a panic attack or something like that. But doing those daily practices, it could be a walk with your dog, it could be hanging out with your friends, it could be spending time alone with a book. Any of those things can kind of ground you, bring you back to that neutral point for your mental
Well,
health.
and how do we use it? This is going to be even more fun of a conversation, in my opinion. How do we use anxiety to our benefit? Because, like, for example, sometimes I hear a lot about depression. Oh, I can't get out of bed, right? And because people feel that way, which
Hmm.
is fine. You can feel like you don't want to get out of bed. Sometimes for me, like I have to grade papers today. Obviously I'm kidding,
It's
but
your favorite thing.
I love it. No, I hate it. If they paid teachers enough to hire somebody to grade papers, done. I would do it in a minute. But anyway, like how do you use like I got one of I mean I get out of bed every morning because I love my life and all that fun stuff, but like there are times where I'm like, oh my god, I got to get up, I got to do this, blah, 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 blah. Like, and the anxiety helps me get out of bed, so there
Yeah.
is no depression.
Well, and, I mean, you're talking to somebody with diagnosed ADHD. ADHD people thrive on anxiety from time to time. We need that time crunch to give us the motivation to get out of bed or to do the thing, whatever it might be. And sometimes, whether we realize it or not, we manufacture those scenarios for ourselves to give ourselves the motivation to get out there and do whatever needs to get done. I know I did that in school. I was a last minute project person. I was the person staying up the night before to write my 3-page paper, all of those things. But I couldn't get myself to do it otherwise. And I mean, for me, it's an executive function disorder.
Well, and is that a bad thing? Because I know teachers like, oh, you got to prepare, you got to do it, but some
well,
people
and,
it works better for them, so why stop it?
and I mean, anxiety is part of our flight or fight response. It's an evolutionary trait, if that's your belief cycle. But um, it does serve a purpose. Too much anxiety all the time, I think, is bad. But having the awareness, like me, knowing that if I leave the thing the last minute, I'm gonna be superhuman speed and able to get the thing done. Sometimes, yeah, I do that on purpose consciously because I know it's going to help me stay motivated and do the thing.
Well, exactly, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is not all mental health is negative.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of the cracks I was talking about earlier in the show is like, how is it that we can utilize not make mental health such a dirty word. And I think that's one of the bigger purposes
Gotcha.
to this podcast is, you know, I feel like even to this day, yeah, oh God, I see it in schools all the time. Oh, I have this type of IEP or I have this type of thing, and people feel less because they have special accommodations that are needed in school and they get embarrassed. When in reality, it can be your strength at times. Now,
True.
when it becomes demobilizing is when it becomes a problem. So when your anxiety is so high that you know you're pacing back and forth constantly, not getting anything done, and constantly
Well, and that's the difference between somebody who feels anxious from time to time and somebody with a clinical anxiety disorder.
bingo.
Like every, and I know it's ableist to talk this way, but a common phrase that I hear is, everybody's a little bit ADHD or everybody's a little bit OCD or something like that. And it's like, yes, most people probably exhibit some of the symptoms of a lot of these different mental health disorders, but until it starts interfering with their daily life, it's not a disorder. It's just something that you have to deal with. Everybody feels anxious. But if you can't function, you can't make it to work or school or whatever it is because your anxiety is not letting you get out of bed, that's something to talk to somebody about.
Well, exactly. And see, I want to take scale it back a little bit because that's one thing we've talked about on the show a
Yeah,
lot is the people that are demobilized. This is where you go. We have the
right.
lifeline. We have all of these events. But I want to scale it back to the point where you have these everybody has these mental health issues, and it's not a negative. Sometimes you can use your mental health to be a positive.
Right.
And for example, let's even go as far as anger. You can utilize if you react out of anger, right? And we've talked about, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and all those other things. But one of my favorite things I used to when I was younger is listen to like Michael Jordan or some of these athletes, Kobe Bryant. Their anger would feel like there was the story I heard where Michael Jordan was at a restaurant and he wasn't angry enough before his game. So the owner of the other team or something, they happened to be at the same restaurant. And don't quote me on the story. It's something to this effect.
Yeah.
But he he said the guy said, "I hope you have a great game," and somehow Michael Jordan turned that into something that he was mocking him, got him real angry, ended up scoring 50 points in a game.
My middle school football coach figured out that that works with me. So he would just tell me he didn't believe in me. He didn't think I could do it. Like,
And it made him angry, and you
yeah,
probably played real well.
absolutely.
Exactly. So how do you take some of these things that aren't demobilizing and on your day-to-day basis with these check-ins we've talked about in other episodes, go, hey, I'm angry. Okay, I'm observing I'm angry. What am I going to do with this?
Well, right. And you can be constructive with it. I'm angry you did this thing, but rather than lashing out emotionally, I can kind of observe that anger and figure out, okay, what can I do to help improve that situation? Either,
Bingo.
removing myself from the situation, because sometimes that's the answer, or, going out of your way to help somebody so that they don't cause you to feel that way.
Well, and it is a check-in with yourself to understand how, like again, like Michael Jordan was self-aware of his anger in the
Hmm.
realm of basketball, that he could say, "I need to be angry to play
Well,
better," and that's okay. I mean, he didn't hurt anybody other than beating the other team pretty bad, but they'll deal with that.
right.
But I mean, you know. But then then you have people that are anger and hit somebody, or for again extremes, shoot somebody. Those are check-ins. Did they both feel anger? Michael Jordan and say a criminal. Yeah, they both felt anger. We felt anger, but observing and utilizing it to the best of your ability is actually the best thing.
Well, and I think what that really hinges upon is what you said, self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you don't have that awareness, you're not going to take the time to analyze, okay, why am I feeling this way and what can I do with it?
Right.
I know we've talked about it this way before. I don't know if it was on a previous episode or not, though, but talking about how, a lot of people don't like to acknowledge that they have mental health,
Yes,
right?
we have
And we're
definitely
and we're
talked about
yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
we're not talking about positive or negative mental health. We're just talking about mental health. I try to get away from the ADHD being a disorder kind of talk, right? Um, if you don't think you have mental health, just start kind of logging your feelings throughout the day, and you'll figure out what your state's
Yeah,
like,
and the labels, actually, I had a situation where I had somebody actually tell me that they believed I was ADD, and I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that, because, and this is also where I say, utilizing what you said with the ADHD and the executive functioning, you know, just because I'm a hyper guy and I'm very animated
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean I have ADD or ADHD.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's the check-in that I'm talking about, is sometimes we label people and then it's my job. You put that on me. Well, do I have this? No, I can function in this way. What is it that's going on with me? And being able to acknowledge and accept whatever the behavior or feeling you have is on a daily basis. This is a daily practice. This is something that kind of is the cause and purpose of life, is understanding yourself and having these different type of experiences from my perspective, and being able to utilize whatever comes in your way to the most positive outcome that for yourself it can be, because at the end of the day, you know, you're the person that decides for your life. It's your experience. Irrelevant to the outside circumstances don't matter. It's what you do with those circumstances, and I heard that quote, it was real cool, from Daryl Anka, and he, that really explains, like, sometimes things are out of your control, but what is in your control is how you react to those situations.
right.
And that's huge for anybody, because then you stop feeling helpless, which causes depression and so on and so forth, the cycles of concepts.
Right. That very closely mirrors the principle of the second arrow in Buddhist teaching,
Yes.
where they talk about, if you get hit with an arrow, if you're focused on that, right, you're not going to see the second arrow coming. And, the way that applies in mental health is, something happens and you're angry about it and you're blinded by that anger about that thing, you're unintentionally going to cause yourself more pain because you're not paying attention to the rest of your
Exactly.
surroundings.
And it's all about where
And I'm
you're.
sure I completely butchered that parable, but um, I'll have to revisit
The other
it.
I mean, we're not professionals. We are two people that are helping and hoping to create as much awareness about this as possible, because it's very important to all communities, but especially ours. Like we talked about homelessness in Waukesha, and in general, people just living their daily lives. If we don't talk about things, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take,
Right.
all of those things. So just acknowledging that this is a very important concept, and how we handle it on a daily basis is trying to help each other figure that out. That's another purpose to life, is how do we experience each other.
And if nothing else, we're just two more people talking about it, showing you that it's okay to talk about, whether it's, to a professional or with your friends or family, whoever you're comfortable with. Because ultimately, we still have a mental health crisis going on, not only locally, but nationwide, worldwide in a lot of respects.
And I want to add that I think it's can be considered a crisis is just because we don't talk about it.
Well, yeah,
Like, I have to put a plug in here a little bit and my condolences, and I'm very sorry for everything that happened in Minnesota
of course.
recently at that church. And I think that that's where I get it, and I don't want to get super political about guns. I know that's the first place we go. However, I think that you know guns are harmful and can be harmful, and I'm not arguing that. However, the mental health side of things, I think, is like the arrow concept.
Hmm.
We got shot in the arrow by guns, which getting shot, wait,
Shot in the leg by an
yeah,
arrow.
yeah, yeah. The arrow parable is the gun. The first arrow is the gun
Yeah.
in the parable. All right, we got it. But that second arrow we're getting hit with is the mental health issue. Like, what would drive somebody to do that? Like, what happened in this person's life that made them react in that such a negative way? And I use negative very loosely, but I mean, it's ugly, really ugly. What would cause that? And I think that the guns almost become irrelevant when we can talk about, why are we even that angry? Like, what is the problem that made this person believe that that was the only out, was to go shoot up a church and then shoot himself? That's hurtful. I mean, it's hurtful to even talk about. So, it's a yes, and we got to take care of the arrow, the
Hmm.
first one. But we also, there's a second one there that I think that goes unnoticed sometimes.
Oh, most certainly. And I mean, I actually, in this scenario, I think the mental health aspect is kind of the scapegoat that people run to. They want to ignore that initial problem and focus solely on that. And I'm a gun owner, and speaking as a gun owner, I'm all for a certain amount of gun control. At this point, we have to do something that isn't performative. Um,
Agreed.
when it comes to the mental health side of things, yeah, we need to have more people involved in screening or paying attention to these kids as they're going through school or whatever it might be, because clearly that's the root cause.
Right. I would agree. So
The rest of the world has shown us, you can get rid of guns, you're not getting rid of people with troubles.
that's what I was getting at. Some things I teach my students, and I know cutting it low on time, but as a history teacher, one thing I've always said is there's two things we are great at as a human race, in my opinion. One, we survive. For
Hmm.
whatever reason, our race is so good at surviving no matter the crisis. That's why when people are like, oh my God, the world's coming to an end, I'm like, it should have come to an end a long time ago, especially after the atom bomb was made. You don't think people were scared. So we are great at surviving. The next thing we're really good at is being creative and killing each other. We know how to kill each other. I mean, that's not the purpose of life. I'm just saying it's a talent we have. If you look at the Inquisition, if you look at, the ancient China and how
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, we have books about how people tortured and murdered people. I mean, who would have thought to hang someone
Isn't
on a
there?
cross from nails? Like, that's weird if you think
We have
about it.
entire museums dedicated to that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like some of the contraptions I've seen, like, why would you do, like, what in your thought process thought, oh, I have a great idea. Let's kill this person this way. It just boggles my mind. But, we are very good at that. So that goes back to his point. Is the gun the issue or is it something else? Because we'll find a way to kill each other, which is awful. And I
And,
don't think we should be doing
and
that.
I think the right answer is yes.
Yeah.
Clearly, the access to guns in the way that they are, or at least the type of guns, is a problem. Uh, you know, it seems that we are the only nation in the world that has this level of this problem.
So and what
Um,
does that tell you? Because other countries do have guns and they have other things
right, but they have much more restrictions on these
and
guns.
mental health
They
assistance.
also have a lot more social programs and mental health assistance and things like that
Well, and
too.
also I think it's Switzerland or Sweden, I forgot which one, or one of those countries that their prison system is a real rehabilitation center,
Oh
not there
yeah.
for punishment. It's there for rehabilitation.
But also understand and I'm not sure it's all of them, but I know there's a handful of European countries where it's legal to own a gun, but you have to go through like a government facility to get ammo for that gun.
See something
You
like
know,
that. Yeah, like I mean, there's so many different checks and balances. So, you know, again, really hopefully getting to the issue of everyday mental health, going back to it, we went to guns and all of that, but that's where our daily to build up to to kind of cut it before it gets to that point of destructive behaviors.
oh yeah, that's the ultimate goal. But it's kind of like if you have a if you have cancer, right? I had cancer. If you have cancer, you need to take care of that immediate problem as well as treating the ability of it coming back. You got to take it from both angles.
Preach on that
So,
one.
I
Preach
don't
on
think
that
we
one.
can just put laws on gun restrictions and expect this problem to go away.
I
I don't
agree.
think we can put, more help and more services into mental health and expect this to go away. It's going to have to be a multi-pronged approach.
Couldn't agree more. So
On
with
that
that being
note,
said,
yeah, we are getting close to the end of our time here. I appreciate you guys taking the time to be here and watch. Um, I know it's been a long time since our last episode. Just understand that a lot of things are in the works with Feronis and the podcast and everything else. I haven't even been able to get to the blog the way that I want to.
oops, we'll get there.
We're working on it all.
And we appreciate your time and sticking with us.
Thanks again.
All right.